Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to talk about something I think a lot of us can relate to, lifestyle creep. You know that feeling? The one where no matter how much more you make, you feel like you're just running in place, chasing a life that's always just a little bit out of reach. We're living in a time of unbelievable abundance, but it seems like our anxiety about what we have and what we don't have is higher than ever. So we're going to dig into the psychology of why we always seem to want more and why more almost never feels like enough.
So, let's start here. This quote from researcher R.J. Starr absolutely nails our modern world. We don't just live anymore, we perform. Just think about it for a second. Every meal you eat, every vacation you take, every new gadget you buy, it can all feel like it's being staged for some kind of invisible audience. And this isn't just about showing off. It's literally how we build our identities now. The things we buy become the props, the costumes in this ongoing play of our lives, a brand called me, that we feel we have to manage and upgrade constantly. And this shift from living to performing, it has a massive impact on what we want and, you guessed it, what we buy.
And this leads us to the big question we're tackling today. Why on earth do we spend our hard-earned money trying to impress people we might not even like? It just seems completely irrational, right? And it's often super unfulfilling. There are these hidden costs to this whole performance, the stress, the debt, and that quiet, nagging feeling that you're not really being authentic. So what is the powerful psychological engine that's driving us to do this? Let's break it down.
To really get this, we have to start by looking inward, at the very wiring of human happiness. Our first clue is this powerful and honestly kind of frustrating feature of our psychology. It's a mechanism that keeps us chasing the next big thing, always pursuing a kind of happiness that seems to stay just over the horizon. It's called the hedonic treadmill. And the idea is actually pretty simple. We all have a kind of emotional set point, a baseline level of happiness. Sure, getting a big promotion or a brand new phone gives you that temporary buzz, but that excitement, it always fades. That dream car you wanted for years quickly becomes, well, just the car you drive to work. You adapt, and your happiness level snaps right back to its original setting. Now, this was probably a great evolutionary advantage. A totally satisfied caveman probably wasn't a very motivated one. But in our world of one-click shopping, this same drive creates a game that's almost impossible to win.
And this treadmill runs in a really predictable four-step cycle. Let's walk through it. It all starts with desire. You see that beautiful high-end espresso machine online, and you start imagining how perfect your mornings are going to be. Then comes acquisition. You buy it, and for a few weeks, it's amazing. It brings you a real surge of joy. But then comes the most important step, adaptation. Making coffee with it just becomes the new normal. It's just part of your routine. And that leads you right back to step 4. Returning to your emotional baseline, where you might even start noticing that your coffee grinder isn't quite good enough, and so the hunt for the next happiness hit begins all over again.
This is such a perfect way to picture it. We're like a hamster on a wheel, but the real trap of the treadmill isn't just that we stay in the same place emotionally. It's that the hamster has to run faster and faster just to feel the same. Think about it. The very first iPhone was pure magic. The 15th one? It takes a lot more innovation, a much bigger upgrade to give us even a tiny fraction of that initial joy. We need a bigger raise, a more exotic vacation, a fancier car, just to get the same fleeting buzz. That right there is the creep in lifestyle creep.
So, okay, if the big wins and achievements don't bring lasting happiness, what's driving our day-to-day spending? Because it's not always about chasing some future high. A lot of the time, it's about escaping a present low.
This is something psychologists call compensatory consumption. The easiest way to think of it is like psychological first aid. You know, after a really stressful day at work or maybe a fight with your partner, we do a little retail therapy. We're not using a purchase for what it does, we're using it to soothe an emotional ache, to fill some kind of perceived void in our lives. This is totally different from the hedonic treadmill. One is about chasing a future pleasure, this one is all about fixing a present pain.
And this kind of spending gets sparked by all sorts of negative feelings, like stress or just plain boredom. But that last point on the list is a really powerful one in our world today, the gap between who you are and who you want to be. Social media and marketing are constantly throwing images of our ideal selves at us, fitter, more successful, more interesting. And when that gap feels really wide, a purchase can seem like a shortcut. It's a way to instantly buy a little piece of that ideal self, whether it's a new fitness tracker or a fancy bottle of wine.
So here's the crucial thing to understand. We think we're buying a product, but what we're actually buying is a feeling, a little hit of control, a moment of comfort. It's a temporary bandage on a psychological wound. But of course, a bandage just covers the problem, it doesn't heal it.
In fact, by adding financial stress or buyer's remorse, this kind of spending can sometimes make the underlying insecurity or sadness even worse, creating this vicious cycle of feeling bad, buying something to feel better, and then ultimately feeling even worse.
But here's the thing. Our internal feelings don't just exist in a vacuum. The hedonic treadmill, our emotional triggers, all of this is now playing out on a very public, very competitive, and digitally supercharged stage.
And that brings us to social comparison theory. Look, we are just hardwired to look around and see how we're doing compared to other people. But social media has put this instinct on steroids. We're not just comparing ourselves to our neighbors anymore. We're comparing our real, messy, behind-the-scenes life with the perfectly curated, filtered highlight reels of literally thousands of people all over the world. It is a comparison we are almost guaranteed to lose.
All of this comparison creates this powerful feeling known as the imaginary audience. We start to feel like we're constantly on a stage, being watched and judged by our followers, our friends, even our colleagues. And that puts this immense pressure on us to manage our public image. In our society, that image is so often defined by the things we own, the places we go, and the experiences we broadcast for everyone to see.
And that leads directly to this idea: conspicuous consumption. This isn't just about buying nice things. It's about buying things because they are visibly expensive. It's about turning money into a clear signal of where you stand on the social ladder. 100 years ago, this meant a bigger house or fancier car. Today, it's evolved. It's also about conspicuous experiences. That impossible-to-get dinner reservation, that remote exotic vacation. Things that we consume mostly for their value as a photo op, a story we can share with that imaginary audience.
Okay, so let's just recap for a second. We're on a hedonic treadmill that makes what we have feel less valuable over time. We buy stuff to make ourselves feel better when we're down, and we use those things to signal our status to this audience that's always watching. But this begs the million-dollar question. Does any of this actually work? So, let's get to the real heart of this mystery. When you post that picture of a luxury watch or your first-class plane ticket, what actually happens in other people's minds? We assume it makes people admire us, right? We think that signaling success will attract other successful people, friends, partners. That's the whole point. But what does the research actually show? Well, the answer from a whole bunch of psychological studies is surprisingly clear, and it really gets to the core of this whole paradox. When it comes to the things most of us truly want, building genuine friendships, finding partners we can trust, encouraging people to cooperate with us, this entire strategy isn't just ineffective, it actively backfires. Big time.
And here is exactly why. The act of conspicuous consumption sends a very clear unspoken message. I am focused on hierarchy and my position in it. It is, by its very nature, a self-interested signal. And people pick up on that loud and clear. Research shows that observers see people who signal high status as being less warm and less trustworthy. The signal might elevate you in some imaginary hierarchy, but it creates distance between you and other people. You might gain their envy, but you lose their warmth and connection.
And this isn't just a theory. It's been proven in experiments. So imagine you're playing a game where you have to trust a total stranger with your money. As this chart shows, when that stranger is presented as someone who buys a lot of luxury goods, people are way less likely to trust them or cooperate with them compared to a more modest partner. The very attempt to signal your value as a partner actually repels the one thing most of us really crave, a genuine connection.
So, we've taken the whole problem apart. The treadmill, the emotional spending, the social pressure that ends up pushing people away. It can feel like a totally inescapable trap. But what if there's a different game to play? That brings us to our final section, redefining enough.
The alternative is all about shifting our focus from hedonic well-being to what's called eudaimonic well-being. The hedonic path, as we've seen, is about chasing pleasure and material goods. That's the treadmill. But the eudaimonic path is about finding meaning and purpose. It's driven not by what you can buy, but by what you can build. Skills, relationships, a contribution to something bigger than yourself. Mastering an instrument, mentoring a coworker, deepening a friendship. These things build a lasting satisfaction because the joy comes from the process and the connection. And those things are totally immune to the treadmill effect. One path leads to constant striving. The other leads to real fulfillment.
And that leaves us with one final thought. In a world that is obsessed with signaling, maybe the most powerful status symbol of all is the quiet confidence that comes from not needing to signal anything at all. What if true wealth isn't measured by how many things you have, but by how free you are from the desire for them? It's about consciously choosing to step off the treadmill, to finding your own sense of enough, and realizing that everything you acquire beyond that point isn't really a gain, it's a burden.